You're walking through life hunched over, aren't you? Shoulders curved forward like some defeated creature, eyes on the ground, wondering why the world keeps stepping on you. Here's what you need to understand. It's written in your bones, older than language itself. 350 million years ago, lobsters were already fighting for territory, their brains soaked in serotonin when they won, starved of it when they lost. Winners stand tall, losers shrink. It's the same chemical in you right now determining whether you face the day like you own it or scuttle away from every shadow. This dominance hierarchy, it's not capitalism or patriarchy or some modern invention. It's the structure of existence itself, carved into reality before trees grew on this planet. But here's where it gets interesting. You're not just a body stumbling through chaos, you're consciousness incarnate, carrying a spark of the divine that speaks order into being. Yet most of you treat yourselves worse than you'd treat a sick dog. You'll drive across town to get medicine for your pet, then ignore your own prescriptions. Why? Because somewhere deep down, you know what you're capable of. Not just building and creating, but deliberate cruelty, conscious evil, the kind no mere animal could conceive. Adam and Eve ate the fruit and saw they were naked, vulnerable, mortal, capable of shame and suffering. That self-consciousness is your blessing and your curse. You know exactly where you can be hurt, which means you know exactly how to hurt others. Original sin isn't metaphor. It's the terrible knowledge of good and evil written into your awareness. So what do you do with this burden? Stand up straight with your shoulders back. Not as a pose, but as acceptance. Acceptance of the terrible responsibility of being. You're built from chaos and order both, and your purpose is to walk that razor's edge between them, creating something meaningful from the void. Treat yourself like someone you're responsible for helping. Not with candy and comfort, but with discipline and direction. Define who you are. Choose where you're going. The meaning that redeems your suffering isn't handed to you. You must earn it by shouldering your load and moving forward. Heaven doesn't arrive on its own. We build it, one straightened spine at a time. You think you're behind because everyone else looks further ahead. Stop measuring yourself against strangers. You'll lose every time, and worse, you'll miss the only race that matters. Look, the world's gotten bigger, hasn't it? Used to be you could be the best mechanic in town, the math whiz at your school, somebody. Now you're competing with 7 billion souls, and there's always someone sharper, richer, better looking. Your internal critic knows this. It's got the whole catalog of your inadequacies memorized, ready to recite them while you're trying to sleep. But here's the thing about that voice. It's playing a rigged game. It picks one arbitrary measure, money, status, looks, pretends that's all that counts, then compares you to the absolute peak of human achievement in that single domain. Well, congratulations. You're not Hemingway and you're not Einstein. Neither am I. Neither is anyone else. There isn't just one game. There are thousands of good games. Lawyer, carpenter, teacher, parent, friend. You're playing multiple games simultaneously, and you're probably doing better at some than others. Maybe you should be. Maybe struggling at new things means you're growing, and growth might matter more than winning. When you're young, you need external standards. You don't know enough to judge yourself yet. But as you age, your life becomes singular, incomparable. Your particular struggles, your specific circumstances, your unique trajectory. Who you are today should be measured against who you were yesterday, not against who someone else is halfway around the world. Start small. Find one thing, just one, that bothers you that you could fix, that you would fix. Fix it. Then tomorrow, find another. This is compound interest for the soul. 3 years of this, and you won't recognize your life. Pay attention to what you actually want, not what you think you should want. Negotiate with yourself fairly. Treat yourself like someone you're responsible for helping. Ask, what would make my life slightly better today? Not perfect. Better. The highest good isn't conquering everyone else. It's improving your own small corner of being, then expanding outward from there. Aim at that, and suddenly you're on a trajectory. Even a man on a sinking ship can be happy when he finds his lifeboat. Compare yourself to who you were yesterday. That's the only comparison that means anything. Your children are testing boundaries not because they're evil, but because they're blind people searching for walls. They need to know where the edges are, where chaos ends and order begins. And you, terrified, paralyzed by modern guilt, you're leaving them to wander in the dark. Here's what nobody wants to admit. Children are violent by nature. 2-year-olds are statistically the most aggressive humans alive. They hit, bite, steal. Not because society taught them, but because aggression is written into the code. Your job isn't to preserve some mythical innocence. Your job is to civilize a small barbarian so the world doesn't destroy them later. The culture sold you a lie about pristine child development, about never saying no, about being their friend instead of their parent. Meanwhile, your kid's becoming someone even you can't stand to be around. And if you can't stand them, what chance do they have with teachers, with other children, with the cold machinery of adult life? Discipline isn't cruelty. It's mercy in advance. It's teaching the difficult lessons while the stakes are low, while consequences still arrive wrapped in love instead of in court summons and social rejection. Use minimum necessary force. Limit the rules. But for God's sake, enforce something. And then there's you, standing in the wreckage of your own life, pointing fingers at capitalism, at society, at God himself. You want to fix the world? Start with your own household. Clean up what's directly in front of you. Stop doing what you know is wrong. Not what some philosopher says is wrong. What you know is wrong. Your soul knows the truth, even when your mind makes excuses. Stop betraying yourself. Stop lying. Stop the small corruptions that compound into catastrophe. Because here's the terrible secret. If you can't bring peace to your own family, you have no business trying to revolutionize society. That's not humility, that's arithmetic. The alternative to taking responsibility is judgment. It's deciding that being itself is corrupt, that God made a mistake, that existence deserves your contempt and revenge. That path leads exactly where you think it does. Set your house in order first. Then, maybe then, you'll have earned the right to speak about what's wrong with the world. You're choosing, right now, which version of reality you'll inhabit, not through grand gestures or dramatic conversions, but through the small, grinding decision of whether to speak what's true or bend the world with convenient fiction. Here's what nobody wants to admit. Lying isn't just wrong in some Sunday school sense. It's structurally corrosive. Every untruth compounds, multiplies, metastasizes. You tell one lie to smooth things over, then 3 more to prop up the first. Then you distort your own thinking to avoid the shame. Soon you're not just lying to others, you're lying to the part of yourself that knows better. And that internal split, that civil war in the soul, that's what makes people sick. That's what turns mere suffering into hell. The totalitarians understood this perfectly. Stalin's Soviet Union didn't just murder millions. It required millions more to falsify their own experience, to deny what they knew, to prop up the lie with their silence. Solzhenitsyn saw it clearly. The camps were built on a foundation of small, cowardly untruths. The apocalypse begins with looking away from what you know to be real. But there's another path, and it's simpler than you think. Pay attention. Watch what actually happens when you speak and act. Notice that sinking feeling when you're being false. That's not anxiety. That's your soul rejecting tyranny. Feel it. Follow it backward to the lie, and then do this. Set your aim, but hold it lightly. Move forward, yes, but let reality inform you. Let your goals transform as you discover what's actually true. This isn't weakness. It's the opposite of the totalitarian's rigid certainty. This is faith that being itself can be trusted, that the future will reveal better destinations than your limited present mind can imagine. Meaning doesn't come from getting what you want. It comes from pursuing truth regardless of cost, then watching everything align, past, present, future, self and world, into something that holds, something that stands. The alternative? Keep lying, keep manipulating, keep pretending. Watch things fall apart. Watch yourself transform into someone even you can't stand. Then blame the world for your self-imposed exile. Or tell the truth. Start small, start today. See what happens when you stop twisting reality and let it speak. You think you're listening, but you're just waiting to speak, preparing your counterattack, inflating your own story to match theirs, measuring yourself against them in this ancient primate dance we've perfected over millions of years. Real listening. That's rare as hen's teeth. When someone talks, they're not reciting facts from some objective record. They're thinking out loud, organizing chaos into meaning, testing their simulations of reality against yours. Memory isn't a camera. It's a tool for not repeating the same damn mistakes. We think by talking, and we can't do it alone. That's why solitary confinement breaks people. That's why the friendless lose their minds like hoarders who can't unclutter their homes. Here's what nobody wants to admit. Most of what passes for conversation is territorial pissing. Who's got the better story? The worse trauma? The wittier comeback? We're not exchanging ideas. We're jockeying for position in the dominance hierarchy, same as our ancestors did when they crawled from the sea. But genuine conversation? That's sacred ground. That's two people brave enough to think together, to let their worldviews collide and merge and transform. It requires assuming the other person might know something you don't, which means risking the terrifying possibility that you might be wrong, that you might change, that the comfortable little story you tell yourself about reality might shatter. The alternative is watching small problems grow into dragons. You ignore the friction in your marriage, the dissatisfaction in your work, the vague wrongness you can't quite name, and it compounds. That dragon under the rug gets fat on all the things you won't say. Then, one day, it bursts through the floorboards and your whole house collapses. Precision is the antidote. Specify exactly what's wrong. Articulate precisely what you want. Not everything. That's too much. This one thing. This particular problem. When you name it clearly, you separate the actual difficulty from the infinite catastrophe your anxious mind projects. So listen like you don't know everything. Speak like words matter. Assume that uncomfortable truth you're avoiding, that thing you're too polite or too scared to mention. Assume it's growing teeth in the darkness. Because it is. The skateboarders grinding down handrails weren't being reckless. They were becoming competent, testing themselves against chaos, learning what their bodies and spirits could endure. We've forgotten something essential. Humans don't seek to minimize risk, we seek to optimize it. Strip away all danger and you strip away the possibility of courage, of mastery, of genuine development. Look at what happens when we overprotect. Playgrounds vanish overnight because of insurance fears, and suddenly kids are climbing school roofs instead. Install skate stoppers on every surface and you haven't eliminated danger. You've just made the world uglier while teaching children that their growth matters less than our comfort. The solution reveals the lie in its implementation. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Boys are struggling in our modern world, falling behind educationally, discouraged from the very traits that make them resilient. We've confused aggression with violence, independence with disobedience. That aggressive drive, properly integrated, properly socialized, becomes determination, ambition, the capacity to stand up when standing up matters. Suppress it entirely and you don't get peace, you get resentment festering in the dark. The Oedipal mother does everything for her children, never lets them face consequence or hardship, and wonders why they grow bitter and dependent. Compassion without boundaries becomes its own kind of cruelty. Real love means letting people struggle with challenges while they're young enough that failure won't destroy them. It means standing behind them, not in front of them. And women need this too, not weakness in men, but strength tempered by consciousness. The truly dangerous thing isn't tough men, it's weak men who've never learned discipline, who've never been tested, who collapse into resentment when life reveals its essential hardness. We inherit both limitation and possibility. Every child is fragile, every person mortal, every dream shadowed by potential failure. But that fragility is inseparable from what makes life worth living. Without limitation, there's no story, no becoming, no meaning. The question isn't whether we can eliminate suffering, we can't. The question is whether we'll face it with courage or retreat into bitterness. So let children take their risks. Let them test themselves. Let them discover their own competence through voluntary confrontation with the difficult and dangerous. That's not negligence. That's the hard work of preparing them for a world that will test them whether we like it or not.